Cool. Okay, I got distracted. I got distracted. I got distracted. All right. So I got distracted. All right. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. And tonight we are going to be once again resuming our Seijo 4. So last time finished blocking in. Most of you were using me, still need to give him clothes, and I'm realizing I need to touch up his leg now. But for the most part, we are going to continue on blocking Mattsun, and then hopefully by the end of the evening we will have one more boy down, and then we can move on to Maki. And just as a recap, last time I did need to set up a model, and I did do a little bit of light tracing over it. So just needed something to get Mattsun in there without me having to fight, because otherwise we'd still be stuck with Mattsun. And I need to get that out of the way. Okay, so tablet is how many days before she finally decides to plug in her new tablet? We do not know. Okay. Okay. Mm, that's Maki's folder. Where's Mattsun's? Oh, I did not realize I had that many for Mattsun. Why does he have a ruler? Oh no, wait, I thought that was a ruler. No, that's his. So there's a 3D model we traced over last time just to get him into position. I'm thinking of moving up his thigh just to connect a little higher here. It just doesn't look right like the way it is right now. So that aside, we could even get started with Maki in all honesty, because like that's a pretty well blocked in figure, but I'm gonna move him along a little further before we start on Maki. Yeah, get my life together. Yeah, we'll go with an 8. And once again, not in the right layer. And so, okay, that gives us a good base to work off of. Jaw's a lot further than I thought it would be. I'm just trying to figure out where to put his eyes. It's gonna be the top of his eyebrow, so, and bottom of his nose is gonna be roughly around there. I feel like I need to give him a sharper jawline. Okay, and do I have a reference of Mattsun on hand? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And the thing I find interesting is that Clip Studio Paint, well, at least when I'm doing the video capture, it doesn't show like all the menus that I'm pulling up. So it's kind of hard to see when I'm kind of doing something a little different. Do I have any? I should have Mattsun references. And in a sense, I'm kind of glad because sometimes when my folders open up, there's something that I should like would jump scare a person. My brain is not here. It does not remember where I put my references. Mattsun. Yeah, definitely things in here that would jump scare a person. Okay. Oh, I forgot I had like a whip of like Maid Matthias and Florian, but I didn't like where how it was turning out, so I just completely dumped it. And I feel so bad because I love those two. Do you want I'll tilt his head up later. Let me also pull up a picture of the Legion really quick. Wrong Legion. I'm kind of wondering for what's his face? Joey. Is it Joey? Is Joey's mask more of like a fabric mask or is it actual plastic? Those are figures. It looks more like it would be a fabric mask. So for Mattsun, I could probably have his mask pulled down to his neck because if it's anything like those ski masks, then the top pulls up over your head. And then you could bring it up over your face, but I can't really tell. Oh, that's gonna be an. Oh, I need to watch that YouTube video later. I know. I think it might actually be a plastic mask. It just looks like a skull. And you know what I could do because right now both Iwa Izumi's and Oikawa's masks are going to be resting on the side of their faces. I just didn't draw Iwa's. And then I could have like Mattsun holding his mask instead. Okay. I think we're going to go with that. So that way we have a little bit more variety in what each of them are doing with their hands. Oh, I forgot to draw in his arm. It's okay. His are so tiny. I have made that a little too big, but that's okay. Sometimes I need to remember that the thumb faces inward towards the body, because I regularly forget that piece. So do not mind the freakish looking hands. Everything's going to be out of proportions for a little bit. Please ignore the 3 fingers. That's how I'm pretty much going to group them. It's also the challenging part when you have a tendency to like mesh all the different tutorials that you've picked up over the years. Because on one hand, using stick figures to kind of help direct where the fingers go is helpful. Sometimes picturing the I feel like I made Mattsun too buff. And in today's episode of characters, I'm gonna have to debuff, literally. I feel like I made him a little too thick. Like his arms are thicker. Like he's making Iwa Izumi look lean when the goal with Iwa Izumi was to make him look bulkier. Oopsies. He makes Iwa Izumi look a little too lean. Now, let's cut back on the protein Mattsun. Let's begin by earthing your arms. Good thing is, like, most of this stuff is gonna get covered by clothes anyway. But I copped onto the fingers a little too soon for my liking, but it's okay. And then his mask is just gonna kind of just hang out here. Well, you don't even see that part of his, like how it kind of gets in the way of that. Okay. Just gonna move like out of the way really quickly. And I think that's kind of one of the benefits of having everybody in their own layer. Like I can do stuff like that if somebody's getting in the way, their line art doesn't get overly crowded, which is nice. I made him way too buff. And now that looks out of place. I made him far too buff. Jesus Christ, Mattsun. What have you been eating, my man? One of my favorite tropes. Serial killer boyfriends. Like, I will salivate for that. I just need to have that. I really need to get a haircut. I am reaching the point where it's getting too hot. My hair is retaining so much heat. And on top of that, like I'm not I usually let my hair down. So the funny thing is, growing up, I would always have my hair tied up so that it wouldn't get in the way of things. As I got older, I started wearing my hair like more loose, like just letting it down. Like I rarely tie my hair up nowadays unless I need to. Or I decide I'm having a day where I'm just playing around with my hair. And when it gets long, it gives me a lot more to work with, so I'm able to experiment a lot more compared to when it's shorter. But when it's shorter, it is far more easier for me to maintain, especially as somebody who doesn't like particularly care about long hair and maintaining long hair. So like while it's nice to have long hair to experiment with hairstyles, not to mention as it's getting hotter, it just retains so much heat, and in order to like do even like remotely any form of heat management, I need to tie up my hair, but at the end of the day that only lasts me like a little while, mainly because I'm not used to the weight of my hair tied back anymore, so it's very easy for me when you combine heat on top of like the weight of my hair. It gives me a headache so fast that I just can't. And while I was in Japan, I bought those like little hair sticks that if you like twist your hair in the right way, it can hold your hair in place when you stick the needle through your head, through your hair. So I have a few of those, a couple, I have two. But like I have them and I want to use them, but they like with my current length, if I do it just right, I'm able to do it just fine without too much of an issue. But um, where was I drawing? Are you kidding me? Okay, I was drawing on the wrong layer. That was the wrong layer. Well, I guess I didn't really do much progress on Maki, so if we lose him, it's fine. If we lose Maki, it is fine. But yeah, like my hair is tied up right now, and I can already feel the onset of a headache coming on because it's tied back. Because my head's not used to it anymore. The funny thing is, like, well, to be fair, when it comes to wigs, if I'm in cosplay and it comes to wigs and I start experiencing headaches, it's usually a matter of like just let it pass through because that's like the garter is pushing down and adding pressure to my head. Which on another note, I really need to get back into cosplay, but I just have not set aside any time. Like I if I could like remove certain things from my life, I would if I could, but all of them have a tendency to be essential to my survival, so I can't, unfortunately. It's sad. It makes me sad because I would much rather be at home drawing all day if I had the choice. And I'm also like debating on doing another week just to draw and get ahead on like a lot of these illustrations because some of the sticker designs I've managed to get two of them lined, but I'm still working on the sketch on the third one for the emotional support set of stickers. Right now I have the femboy, twink, and catboy. I'm debating on adding a couple of more, mainly like e-boy or maybe even gamer boy or something along emotional support gamer, and just make them cute. I feel like he's a little too big, but at the same time, his size does make sense comparatively speaking because Mattsun, and this is the thing I was going on about during the last stream too, is that Mattsun is the largest of all of them, so it would make sense that he's a little larger. Okay. I feel like there's some, like, I know I traced over a 3D model, but I feel like there are things about Mattsun that I need to fix. Like, for one, he looks a little too bulky. I feel like his head is too small for his body. And actually, we can increase the size of his head to better match Oikawa's size. I just need to change the size of his head, which is going to affect the size of his neck, which is fine. Are you kidding me? What layer was I drawing on? Okay, his head's a little bigger than Oikawa's, but it's fine. That's fine. Little nudge. They're all just in hoodies and masks. Like, oh, it does seem like his mask is a cloth. It's not a plastic. Is Joey's mask a cloth or an actual plastic mask? I was gonna say plastic mask just so that we have Mattsun holding something. Do they have any description of it in the wiki? I had no idea Joey had a beard. Oh, so it is okay, it's a balaclava. Okay, so it is a fabric. Okay. I feel like I should set up a window so that if I'm ever looking for references, you guys can see it. Actually, I think I have one set up from the previous stream. Did it work? There we go. There we go. I'm still getting it. Can you tell I'm still getting a handle of my streaming software? It's great. It's great. Anywho, back to Joey. If I can remember what window I'm supposed to be on. So back to Joey. So yeah, part of his description is a black balaclava like skull mask. So it is a fabric, so we're gonna change up that design for Mattsun. So that is gonna change this. So that hand is just also gonna be an idle. We can fix that up pretty easy. Now if only I could get my head back in the game. So we'll go ahead and just draw in the. I'm gonna draw it in more like a bandana because at the end of the day, we do want to have some. Sorry, I just saw a text message. Okay. The other thing about Joey. Joey beard and dressed in a black heavyweight hoodie with a small sling black bag on his back. Okay. Okay, they're all wearing hoodies or some variation of a hoodie, so do we want to still make their designs to an extent unique? But it's kind of hard when they're all pretty much wearing the same thing, except for the two girls. Well, we did give. I am okay. I'm gonna because ah um okay. It's like it's one of those things that like you want to bring in a little bit of your own twist, but at the same time, you're also thinking about practicality. And yes, hoodies are a practical option. Because I do plan to give Oikawa Letterman. Okay, we can worry about. Okay, what I can do is give Mattsun the leather jacket. Oikawa gets a Letterman, and then. Okay, I think we got this. What did I just say? His hands look like goofy little gloves. And then everyone gets. I've always liked like combat boots, like heavy duty combat boots on Mattsun. It just feels very him. Who did I give baggy pants to? We'll give Mattsun the baggy pants. Give him the cargo pants. No lower. Okay. I think that's good enough for Mattsun. Although I do want to improve his eye shape a little bit. We'll do one more sketch for Mattsun and then we'll move over into Maki. Do need to fix up Mattsun's facial proportions as well. Okay. I feel like I need to start with his eyes first, but it's gonna help having the guideline for the nose. Move that down a little. Yeah, it feels better when it gets moved down. I think the eyebrows are fine where they are. Big boys. Mouth is too low. Mouth is too. The other thing about his expression, I also need him. Why are my eyes stinging? Then the skull features are going to be kind of just scrunched up around his neck. Arms way too beefy. I feel like that's a little low for his hairline. The hairline was fine where it was at. The thing about Matsun's hair, it's like it's cropped short, but it's also very like textured. God, when he grew out his hair, like in the time skip, Mattsun, Mattsun, your glow up was doesn't really. I feel like the thing that kind of sets him aside from Iwaizumi, he's got a little bit more like Iwaizumi's spikes like all are pretty straight and they kind of curl in one direction. Mattsun has a little bit more wavy hair. Because like in there was like a part of me that's was always thinking like in a way like Iwaizumi and Mattsun in a way like very like appearance wise are very similar but very distinct at the same time. And I kind of like my brain finally put it all together. It's like, oh, it's like literally the difference in texture in their hair. Because I think Iwaizumi's hair is probably just straight. He just spikes it. Matsun's is a lot more textured, and it's one of those things like, yeah, we've been known, like, oh, congratulations, Einstein. But like it took me the better part of how many years to kind of realize like, oh yeah, this is what sets Mattsun apart from Iwaizumi. Like they I don't know, if you could put them in an AU and make them siblings, you could get away with it. That's where I'm getting at. I feel like there's something cooking to the side of me, but I don't see it. Almost out of water too. I feel like his torso is too long, at least compared to when I draw torsos. Okay, buddy, why are we lagging? Need to just close a few windows because I'm noticing I'm noticing a bit of a my cursor is moving a lot smaller than what I'm actually moving. I feel like his legs are too low. Ignore the gangly looking fingers, we'll fix them later. Specifically ignore that line. I feel like that is too small for his feet, but once again, we'll fix it later. It's warm, but there's a breeze, but like my body is also a little confused right now about it. It's like there specifically like the back of my neck is just like it's hot, but then I feel the breeze on it's just I should maybe start taking out the cooler. What are the signs of heat stroke? Yeah, you wouldn't even see that portion if well, given the angle. Oh yeah. So, audiobook updates. I finished The Rights of the Starling today. And I had a feeling that the book was going in that direction, but I think it was a pretty neat narrative choice to tell that story the way I don't it's one of those things like I want to talk about it, but at the same time it's like very spoiler heavy, like it's going to be very spoiler heavy if I talk about it, but I thought it was such a cool like the end for me was just like there was a part of me that was beginning to suspect that was what was going on. But at the same time, I'm just like, are they gonna like when are like what I don't know how to explain it. But like at the very beginning of the story, I was thinking like, okay, we're covering four different characters now. Are they gonna meet? Are they going to like eventually like interact with each other? Like what are we doing? Like what is gonna be their role in their story? Are they gonna come together to figure out like what they need to do to like to deal with the cruxes? And I also think it was such a good like the addition of Caspia was a really good addition to kind of add a different perspective to things. And then just watching everything come together towards the end, like it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed Shield of Sparrows from its first book. I will admit the second book for me had a much slower pace than I would prefer, and I don't know if it was because like I was also partially distracted while I was like listening to the story, but it there wasn't as much action in my opinion. Like I know there were a lot of events that happened when they were all still traveling, but at some point like all of that just slowed down, and definitely the second book feels like it's at a much slower pace. Mainly because the way I see it is that this book is answering a lot of questions coming out of the first book. So rather than have everything like at a fast pace, like action scenes, it kind of reminds me of, in a way, it's a bit of an off comparison, but in a way, it kind of almost reminds me of how they approached Ruby when they were finally coming out of like that arc during the like almost the invasion of the school, where you have that moment in the narrative where everything just slows down because everybody's essentially just regrouping and trying to recollect themselves. And like it kind of reminds like, and it feels very similar to what happened in Ride of the Starling, is that it's more focused in answering questions and getting like all the information gathered into one place rather than focusing in on action and the adventure portion of the story, because you do still get a little bit more, you still do get a little bit of the adventure, but at the same time everything cools down once they're in is it Calandra? Quintus. When they finally get to Quintus, like more or less everything begins to cool down, and like it's that moment of regrouping. And we're getting a little bit more answers, and hopping between Caspia and Odessa was an interesting choice for me at the beginning, because I'm just like, okay, are these two characters going to interact somehow? Eventually it kind of clicked for me in the back of my head, um that, oh, okay, yeah, they this is like this it adds a different perspective to the story, and I just like the way that they kind of, I don't know how to how to explain it, but I like the way that at the beginning you're kind of just left wondering. It's like, okay, are these characters all going to interact at some point in some sort of way? And is Caspia going to bring in a different perspective that will help them piece everything together? And when the story is told in parallel like that, you kind of expect there to be like a point where all these characters physically meet. But I really did enjoy the fact, I guess, really no way of talking about it without providing spoilers. So spoilers ahead for the Rights of the Starling. Is it the Rights of the Starling? But spoilers for Rights of the Starling. Yeah, Rights of the Starling. Wow, Amazon, that is such a descriptive. Yeah, Rights of the Starling. So like I really enjoyed how we tied in, like I like that the entire time while you're telling the story in parallel, like one is set in the present and somebody else's story is set in the future. Or rather the past would make more sense because it is Odessa who is supposed to be the lead heroine in the story. And I really enjoyed that perspective of seeing everything happen with her mother. I like they're both traveling at like okay, I don't, how do I verbalize this? Okay, okay, I'm having a bit of a lag on my drawing software, which is okay because I will need to end stream soon anyway. But um I really enjoyed that narrative choice of pretty much telling the story of the daughter and then the story of the mother in parallel. Because when the story first kicks off, I'm thinking like, okay, these two have to meet at some point, and then they'll both like work together to piece together a solution to the cruxes. And I really like the addition of Caspia because it adds a different perspective to what are it adds a new perspective to what exactly are the cruxes. And then you bring in such a different, like a starkly different perspective, because for her, like all these creatures are supposed to be, are like usually docile or like very like they live in harmonious peace with her people. But then you have the and then you have everything that's going on in Calandra with Quintus and Tura, where all these very same creatures are far more violent and far more aggressive to the point that they attack people for sport. It's not like it's even pointed out at one point with Caspia that all the creatures in Calandra, they seem to attack not out of need but out of want. So it's like, okay, now we're gonna figure out Maki. So it's like, I'm wondering if maybe one leg goes behind Mattsun and then the other leg kind of. It's gonna be funny because there's like three legs like just hanging out in between Mattsun's. I just find it funny. Why did I have his leg wrap around Oikawa's the back of Oikawa's leg like that? Like I could have just had him. I don't know. We'll just they're a tangle of limbs in a different sense. Anyway, back to Rights of the Starling. But yeah, like and that's a thing that Caspia notices, is that there's a stark difference in how the um like how these creatures all behave. That's what Maki's leg is going to be doing in the back for everyone's, if anyone wishes to know. But I found it interesting because she brings in a completely different perspective to these creatures, because during the first book, the entirety of the first book, you're just assuming that all of these creatures are just naturally aggressive. Debating on what to do with Maki. Yeah, I do want his head to be more resting, and then just looking at here. Once again, we're gonna have to play around with the proportions to make it make sense. Um, but yeah, like in the entirety of the first book, you kind of just get the picture that all of these creatures are just naturally aggressive, and that's just the way they are. But I really and not to mention with the Lysa rolled into the picture, it just makes them that much more aggressive and violent. But then you get Caspia's point of view and you realize, like, oh no, it's something wrong with the land, and then you find out there's more to the Vosters than just being priests, and there's a reason why Odessa like has the reactions that she has around the Vosters. And so I just, not to mention, I really enjoyed Caspia's narrative because it doesn't, like, they don't, Caspia's and Odessa's story doesn't intersect too early. I will say, there was a part of me that was kind of expecting a constant trade-off um between Ransom, Odessa, Caspia, and Andreas. That, like, I was expecting Andreas and Ransom to get more chapters, but I guess their point of view, I think their point of views would have spoiled a lot, to be honest, like in retrospect. Because like there's a good portion of the story I'm just like, when is Ransom gonna show up? When is Ransom coming back? When is Ransom coming back? But also, very big spoiler, I guess not really, but Xavier makes it. Xavier makes it. I remember during like that part of that part of Shield and Sparrow, like I was freaking out because like there's no way we're killing him. There is no fucking way we're killing him. Like I do not accept this. But yeah, Xavier's alive. Evie is precious, and I'm beginning to realize like Evie has like a certain sass to her that I really love. Also, I'm beginning to wonder if Maki's head is huge. Let's bring you back down a bit, my dude. But yeah. Um but yeah, I also like that their stories didn't intersect too soon because like there was a good portion at the beginning that I was just wondering like, okay, when are these two gonna meet? When are these two gonna meet? And I don't I need to kind of do like a careful reread to see if they ever really drop the hint sooner that Caspia's point of view was literally the point of view of the past. Like I feel the need to do a careful like either reread or like listen because I'm enjoying Shield of Sparrows enough that I'm willing to add it to my collection. And I do want to do like a much more careful reread of the series just to see if like do they ever really drop more hints that we were getting the story from Caspia's point of view much sooner. Um but that aside, I do want to do a careful reread to kind of see like when do we kind of like start getting the idea that uh, Caspia is Odessa's mother, and not just some random starling that happens to be traveling the same time as them. Um, and it makes me realize that you think those her visions were all happenings of the past, but then you realize like, oh, they were all happenings. They were all happenings in the future because like and that's the thing that I think kind of threw me off at the beginning because like it stated that Ransom is the person who will eventually kill Emery. But the way that it's framed at the beginning makes it seem like it's something that happened fairly recently, not something that happens in the future. Because she doesn't realize that what she's seeing are prophecies, not things that, or rather, they are prophecies of the future, and they're prophecies not only for her future but also Odessa's future by the sounds of it. And I will have to say that last notebook kind of just randomly ending up in Torah is something a bit that I wish we could get a little bit more clarified, but um and I think I mentioned this before, like during one of the vlogs, because I talked about Cheeto Sparrows during one of the vlogs. That I enjoyed the first book because it doesn't answer too many questions, but it does a lot of setup for like it does a lot of setup for a lot of questions. Um, Maki said it's kind of but the first book does a lot of good setup. It asks a lot more questions than it answers. Like eventually you do get answers to the things that are relevant to the first book, but the first book leaves you with a lot of questions as well, which given how all these questions are answered in the second book, especially I will say like I'm not a huge fan of slower paced books, and I do feel like Rights of the Sterling was a lot more slower pace compared to Shield of Sparrows. But I feel like this is one of those cases where that slower pace is 100% necessary in order to help fill in those gaps and questions that were raised during the first book. And so I have to say, like, I'm really enjoying Shield of Sparrows, and I can't wait for the third book. Although I am kind of like that little cliffhanger she left us with, like, Ransom is gonna be mad. And like I'm already what you call it? I'm already like I don't want to say dreading, but I'm already like I'm already having feels because I can like it's gonna be such a dramatic ending in my opinion. But okay, so we got Maki kind of like lightly drawn in. So we have Maki lightly drawn in. But yeah, I will say I really do enjoy how Rights of the Starling set up its narrative and how the second book progressed, and then you find out later in the future that they are not two journeys happening at the same time. But they're actually two journeys that are kind of being told in parallel, from one set in the past, one set in the future. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. So, um, yeah, I am going to go ahead and wrap up stream for the evening because I do need to start getting ready for bed and taking care of other things before I go to bed. So, thank you everyone for joining me this evening. Managed to get Mattsun in and fairly detailed compared to the other two. And we kind of have a rough little outline for Maki already in place for where he's going to be in the composition. And yeah, I'm happy with the progress that we have so far with the DBD AU. Like, it's coming together slowly, but it's coming together, and I really love the direction that it's headed in. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining me this evening, and I'll see you in tomorrow's stream. So tomorrow I will be doing another live stream, but tomorrow we are going to be working on some crochet projects. I have Usagi Madoki literally sitting right next to me, so we'll probably pick back up on Usagi Madoki and playing around a little bit more with his pattern. Um, do need to figure out a camera situation for that one because I don't. Whenever I do crochet streams, I need to or rather, I need to set up my muse like right in front of me, and I feel like that kind of gets in the way. Um, I my phone tripod takes a little bit more room on my desk, but all things considered, I would much rather have something looking down overhead from the side than I have like something in front of me. So that way I can make sure like I'm always in screen, because sometimes like my hand needs to move around and I need to adjust the height of where my hands are in relation to my face. But I digress. Third time saying goodbye for the night. And so with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow for a crochet stream. And yeah, have a good night, everyone.